And then I started work that following Monday. Boundaries were tough to set then because there were still clients in treatment that I went to treatment with. And I struggled big time with boundaries. I remember having a bunch of like anxiety, like, are these people my friends? Like, I don't want them to feel like I think I'm better. But also there's paperwork that I signed that boundaries that I absolutely couldn't cross, ethically. So I'm living in this transitional house that's religious based, which is perfectly fine because I'm a Christian. You have to go to church. That's fine. I went to church every Sunday. Mandatory Bible study, no problem. Mandatory dinner as a family, that's okay. But I noticed that I was being treated differently. I was being nitpicked at that I wasn't home enough, that I worked too much, that I always pushed it way too close to dinner. I remember one time she barged in my room without even knocking because I had just gotten home from work and I answered a phone call and we weren't supposed to be on electronics, which is the rules, I get it, but I'm an adult. I wasn't doing anything scandalous. I had answered a phone call without even looking at the time. My final straw was when that Bible study, the last Bible study was about the sinful acts and choices of homosexuality. I'm gay. I'm married to a woman today who is absolutely one of the biggest blessings in my life that I've ever experienced. Her and I, when I got out of treatment, I noticed that she had friend requested me. So I checked her friend list, and I noticed that we had one Bear River friend in common. I'm like, I also had noticed in the past that she had rainbow gauges in her ears. So, I mean, that rainbow right there. We all know what that means. She was the weekend nurse when I was a client. And I just want people to know that no, nothing even like an elongated conversation ever occurred when I was a client. I remember how serious she was, but efficient. She was always super polite. Mind you, I was there 87 days, and the only time I ever got a pass to miss any group was one weekend that she was working in. I had the flu. I remember I asked her if I could borrow her lotion because I thought she was cute. That was towards the end of my stay. So I accepted her friend request, and it was our first weekend working together. I remember I had just clocked out, and the CEO was walking through. A man had just had a seizure, and this woman, I remember being like, that was when I thought, like, wow, this is quite a woman. She came running in, like, slid on her knees and went into full, like, just nurse mode, as I say. And, checked his vitals. So CEO asked me, "What are you doing tonight, Anna?" And I was like, "I just clocked out. I have to go home. I have a curfew." He was like, "Who do I need to call? I need you to clock back in and sit with this man. Can you do that for me?" And I'm like, "Well, I did just get hired at the rehab that I went to, and the CEO is asking me to clock in and do this." So I do it. I sit with this man as I'm under the impression is having multiple back-to-back seizures. And I remember, like, not wanting to leave him, making sure he doesn't choke, rolling him on his side, trying to talk him into staying. And I'm like, how do I... And so I started messaging the nurse, because even though she's down the hall, I didn't want to leave this man alone. I'm like, he's having another seizure. She's like, all right, just count how long. I'll be down in a minute. So then I'm like, I wonder why she's not coming down as often. She must be really busy. Sometimes people do things like that when they're med seeking. So I asked her for a ride through Messenger because I didn't have a ride back to Charlevoix, and this is in Boyne Falls. She must have been giving a report because she didn't get back to me, and by the time I did, my roommate was on her way to come get me. But she messaged me, and she was like, if you still need a ride, I'd be more than happy to give you one. And I said, thank you, but I found a ride. I'm really sorry to have bothered you. And she was like, if you ever need a ride in the future and I'm working, I'll be more than happy to give you one. And I was like, I bet you would. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that. But I smiled a little bit and I was like, sure, sounds great. I think it was me that messaged her. I'm sure everybody knows about the Facebook wave. I seen she was on Messenger, so I sent her a little wave, trying to be smooth. And we started to talk. And we got on the topic of me having a child. She was like, I see a little girl on your Facebook page. Is that your daughter? I was like, yes. And she was like, oh, is she with her father? I don't know why every time someone asks me that, I can't help but laugh. Because, I found this meme, and it's like feminine lesbian problems when everybody thinks you're straight, but you're really gay as, F. So, of course, this woman thinks I'm straight. And I was like, actually, I had her with a woman. And that woman still drinks, therefore she's not involved in my daughter's life. And she was like, oh, there's my opportunity, my window of opportunity. No, I'm just kidding, babe. Maybe. But, so yeah, we started to talk. And I put up a real front, like walls everywhere that were bullshit. And as crappy as I like to admit, I basically told her, hey, I'm not emotionally available, but if you want to hang out, no strings, we can do that. And I didn't mean that. I'm not that person. And so we went out. She picked me up in my transitional house, and I remember we went shopping. She picked me up in her car, and it was the first time I ever seen her out of scrubs. She was wearing a dress, and she looked really nice. She was really serious, didn't look at me a lot. She has all these beautiful tattoos, and I remember touching her arm, trying to make a conversation, and I was like, oh, I like your tattoos. What do these signify? And I remember when I touched her arm, she pulled away from me, and I'm like, okay. The way you've been messaging me made me think that wouldn't have bothered you, but okay. So she drove this, I always get the letters wrong, so we'll just say a Subaru stick shift. And I have pretty long legs. I leaned my leg to touch the back of her hand on her gear shifter, I remember. And she pulled her hand away. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So anyways, we go shopping. And I'm like, oh man, there's no way I can keep up with this woman. She's a freaking RN, come to find out, going to school to get her FNP. And I'm like, what does this woman want with me but something physical? So I even we're changing, and I was a good girl. I was in a separate dressing room, but I came out and I was like, can you button this for me? I didn't need her to button it for me, so she hurries up and does it, and then continues trying on her clothes. Whatever. So then she's like, are you hungry? Let's go get something to eat. So we go get something to eat. I'm like, finally, an opportunity to sit across from each other and make eye contact, have a conversation. So I'm trying to initiate my ass off of a conversation, and she's just shooting everything down, looking down, and poking around with the food we got. You're a nurse. That's really awesome. That first weekend we worked together, I could really tell how dedicated you are. Yeah, I never wanted to be a nurse. Okay. Well, how'd you get into nursing? It was an accident. No matter what I said, she always either minimized or shot it down. So I'm like, what is going on? I guess this woman, this is probably going to be the first and last that we hang out. She's going to ignore me at work. So finally, I get her to look up at me, and I'm like, I'm trying to have a conversation with you. It's really hard. Do you not want to talk to me? Do you want to just take me home? And she was like, no, I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. So I go to the bathroom, and she messages me, you look absolutely beautiful tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you in person. I've never had someone make me so nervous. You're just so beautiful. And I come up there, we have a nice little conversation, and I had to be home for curfew. So she takes me home, and I couldn't find, I think it was my bag. So, mind you, again, I live in a Christian-based transitional housing ran by a pastor. And what does she do? She hurries up and pulls in the driveway and turns on the light. And I'm like, I guess I'm not getting a kiss. But she did it because she wanted to help me find my bag. I remember messaging her, too, and I was like, were you just not feeling me tonight? Like, are we never going to do this again? She was like, oh my God, no. Like, I absolutely loved every minute of it. I'm sorry, I was a nervous wreck. Let me make it up to you. It was either 2 or 3 days later, and we went on a date. I think we may have went to we went to the movies. Because I remember messaging her, and I was like, when we go out tonight, like, I'm feeling you. I think you're beautiful. You say that you are interested, but I would love to see it. So we sit down the movies, and like within a matter of, I remember we got popcorn and a pop. I remember she was like, is it going to bother you if we share the same straw? But she put her hand on my leg, and from that first moment, like, the electricity that this woman and I have together is absolutely indescribable. So, hand on the leg, and I remember halfway through the movie, she told me that, like, that moment she almost jumped out of her seat. I reached over. She was wearing capris, and I touched her calf, and she was like, I thought I was going to die. Anyways, so she's driving me home, and right away I'm like, when we're getting close, I was like, do not pull in my driveway. And we park a couple blocks down, and she's just like looking down again. And I say, I had a really nice time, Jamie. She looked up, she was like, me too. And I knew I was going to do it. I knew she wasn't going to, so I kissed her. That right there, it was over. I didn't know right then I was going to spend the rest of my life with this woman, but I knew that she was going to be very significant. So, I must have mentioned that I used to wear Dolce & Gabbana light blue, and I can't wait to get a paycheck to buy some. The following weekend she's working, she messaged me, come see me. Bottle of perfume. Just little things like that, and it wasn't a little thing to me, because that's an expensive bottle of perfume, and I mean, I had lost so much, but in all reality, I gave it away with my drinking. And she's just showering me with gifts, and like, I'm like, what does this woman want with me? I don't have my daughter right now. I'm in transitional housing, making $11 an hour, no driver's license, no car. And I just got out of treatment. But this woman's seen the good in me, my worth when I didn't. It's so much easier to see it in others. So we're dating. I'm ready to move out of transitional. I had been offered a job as a behavioral tech with a pay increase. And she's like, on our lunch break, we're going to go look at this place for you. It's 6 miles down the road. We look at it, and she's like, do you like it? I'm like, yeah, but I don't have $600. Reaches in her wallet, hands the guy $600. She's like, well, it's yours now, so get your stuff here. So now I have a place to have my girlfriend stay the night. So I loved working at the treatment center. Shortly after, I was offered a lead tech position. We're dating and absolutely so in love. I remember this woman told me she loved me. And thank God she did, because I had been choking it back for probably 3 weeks prior. And then she proposed to me in the summer. Of course, I said yes. I knew it was going to happen. Come to find out, like, just shy of a month dating, she went down to her jeweler and started designing a ring. May 10th was our first date. So we start talking about, like, she has children, mind you, and I had never met either of them. I met her daughter, Larkin. We went zip lining, which I was terrified of. We were so far off the ground. She didn't know I was scared of heights. We went on a tour, too, so 7 zip lines. My relationship with my family is just continuing to improve. One time over the summer, I got to see my